A few weeks ago, I asked you guys what you think is the hardest thing to draw. And boy oh boy, you guys did not hesitate. Of course, perspective, everything, the whole body man, side profiles, clothes, environments, perspective, character, head, hair, mouth, eyes, everything, backgrounds, whole body. Obviously, I cannot draw all of them, so I will draw some of them, and of course with the help of the GOAT, Xiaohongshu tutorials. Hopefully we can tame these hard things. Feels wrong to say that, and let's begin. Hands wins the poll. I'm surprised it surpassed feet, honestly. Anyway, I found a lot of hand drawing tutorials on Xiaohongshu, but this is the easiest method that I found. We'll use this picture of a beautiful hand. Lower the opacity and divide the back of the hand into two sections, one for the forefingers and one for the thumb. Fingers are split into three sections, and it's getting shorter towards the tips. I'm using a low opacity brush to mark the joints. As for the thumb, it's divided into two. Now this is only a guideline. You don't have to follow it exactly, just use it to make drawing the actual hands easier. You can call back your reference if needed. You know those lines of bones you see on the knuckles and stuff? Draw the wrist bone, then extend the lines to the fingertips. These lines should go in the middle of each finger. I usually draw knuckles in a diamond shape and draw thin lines for the bones. And there we go. It's not the best looking hand, but it's a hand. Tracing is easier, but try not to trace too much for better practice. Your guidelines and drawings don't have to be the exact copies of the reference. It's a reference, not a rule. I prefer drawing long, bony fingers. You know, like Coraline's spider moms? Remember that? Yeah, that's pretty hot. So I'll draw it longer than the reference. You can stylize it however you want. If you're still finding your art style, look for other people's artwork as additional reference. I rarely draw hands, so this is a nice practice and I don't have to run from my artistic responsibility again. Who am I kidding? I'd probably go back to drawing floating heads in no time. For perspective, I'm going to combine it with dynamic pose because they're kinda related. I know some of you meant perspective as in for backgrounds or environments, but to be completely honest, I can't. I can't do it. This is what shows up when I look for perspective tutorial. Watch it and you'll agree that yeah, right, there's no way Fung can draw this. Look, I draw floating heads. There is no way I can master this in 2 days. In 2 years, maybe. Even that, I'm not sure. I found this interesting tutorial that uses the transform function to assist with perspective. First, I'm gonna follow the same pose as the tutorial, which is the hand on hips sort of thrusting forward pose. But afterward, I'm gonna try a different pose to see if this actually works for me. Like transform and choose perspective form. Now we're going with the frog view angle, where you would feel like a frog looking up people's crotches. Lower the opacity and draw curved lines in the middle of the head, shoulders, midsections, hips, and knees. Now start building the body. This is where anatomy knowledge comes in. You can copy the tutorial exactly, but if you want to draw different poses, you need at least a basic understanding of human anatomy and proportion. Now let's try the top view. Same method, different angle. I'm following the tutorial again since I've never drawn extreme angles like this. For me, the top view is harder than the frog view, especially the body. They're supposed to get smaller the further down they go, and I struggle with that. So yeah, have a reference ready instead of just relying on your imaginations. Okay, I think I'm ready to draw a different pose. I found this reference picture and I know, muy caliente. I think he's just standing there, so from a front view angle, it would probably look something like this. And then we change the angle using the perspective form. If it's too hard to imagine, you can do it right on top of the reference picture. Okay, yeah. That seems about right. Remember, guidelines are not perfect. You might need to move things around to get the right pose. Now draw the curved lines and start adding the body. Again, anatomy knowledge. It helps a lot. Especially if you're drawing different body types, the tutorial works great for petite bodies. But I want to draw a bulkier guy, so I have to make some adjustments. You can look at the references, but it would be best if you build your visual library. A visual library in art refers to the collection of visual memories an artist accumulates accumulates throughout their life, essentially a mental database of images, shapes, blah, blah, blah. Read it by yourself. But basically, the more you observe and study your references, you're building a visual database to help you in concepting your artwork. I will continue this later, as you might have seen from the thumbnail, if I didn't change it that is. This will be the base of the Al-Haytham drawing. Every time I draw Al-Haytham, it's always thirst traps. I'm like the living embodiment of this meme. So a lot of you commented feet, and I agree. Feet is one of the hardest things to draw. However, feet is often associated with unsavory or not safe for work related things. I just want to emphasize that this feet tutorial is for education only, okay? We cool? No, I do not have a thing for feet. Shut up. Anyway, I found this very anatomical tutorial, like really anatomical. If you're really passionate about feet, you'll love it. It's long and detailed. I have to warn you though, the guy's voice is very soothing. I almost fell asleep listening to him talk.
我们把它统一称为足弓。
First, draw a wrench-shaped thing for the ankle. I'll color it blue so it's easier to see. Afterwards, draw a I don't know what this shape is. It's like a toy car or something. I think the shape depends on the pose. I'm just following the tutorial. Toes are divided into 3. The big toe, aka the foot thumb, the 3 other toes, and then the pinky toe. Unfortunately, the tutorial doesn't draw the actual foot, so I'm gonna try to draw purely based on this guideline. It's best to look for references even though you already have a guideline, unless you're already accustomed to drawing feet. I don't look for references for this one because 1, I'm too lazy, and 2, I'm kinda scared of what I'll find if I just type in feet on the internet. Anyway, here's my result. I mean, it's a foot, alright? It's just look a little weird to me. I don't know why. Feet enthusiasts, please educate me. The second method I found is by drawing socks first, then dividing the heel and toes by color. Each toe is divided into 2. This time, the tutorial draws the actual foot, so I have that as a reference. From this angle, the toes get smaller as they reach the pinky toe. The toenails are rounded at the start, unless you're drawing long toenails that are curved like a claw. Ugh. Sounds disgusting. I hate long toenails. Trim your toenails regularly, please. I'll try to color this foot. The tip of the toes are generally redder, and I think the heels are too. Honestly, this second foot looks weird as well, but I cannot pinpoint which part looks weird. It just doesn't look right to me. But anyway, yeah, look at that. Fong draws feet. I remember someone commented that they just want me to draw feet, so they voted for feet in the polls. I hope you don't regret that decision because boy, this is such a shit foot. Clothes are tricky because different fabrics behave differently. Some tutorials teach you the basics, like where to place the folds and creases, and there's something called tension points in clothes. What is this, acupuncture? I found a lot of clothes drawing tutorial on Xiaohongshu, but it would be easier if you have an understanding of how different fabric materials work. Fabric physics, if you would. I will follow this tutorial on thick versus thin fabrics, but I will use my own references instead of copying the tutorial directly. Thick fabrics are often found in hoodies and sweatshirts and sweaters, and the creases tend to look rounder and softer. They have very minimal sharp edges. Overall, just look soft and fluffy. Compare it with thin fabrics. T-shirt, for example. They would have a lot of sharp looking creases and contain many angular shapes instead of rounded ones like in the sweater. Now we have 2 types of fabrics. Even without colors, you can tell which one is thicker and which one is thinner. I'll try to color the sweater. Honestly, I don't know how to explain how I color this, I just follow the reference, but I try to keep the shading soft. Not soft as in just airbrushing everything, just keep the sharp edges minimal. I'm using flat watercolor opaque brush, which works great. It has a faded tip that gives a nice soft look without losing definition. Since thick fabrics don't reflect much light, I will add a slightly lighter color near the light source. I think I drew too many sharp edges though. It doesn't look as fluffy as the reference. For the t-shirt, I tried using a lasso tool to color because I found this tutorial and it looks really cool. But sadly, it doesn't look that way when I tried it. Maybe it's a skill issue. Thin fabrics have a lot of sharp and dark edges, but they also reflect a lot of light. So the contrast between light and shadow is stronger compared to thick fabrics. I also noticed some weird creases on the reference, like on the midsection, it looks crumpled or something, like from the lack of ironing. But yeah, that's the thing with clothes. How it looks really depends on the materials, poses, people who wear it. I'm sure this t-shirt would look different if, say, a heavier person wears it. And that's why I think clothes are really tricky and one of the hardest things to draw. So some of you commented horses. I included in this video not because I want to draw horses, but I want to show you this Giga Chad who draws a horse from imagination. Bro, that is so smooth and like not a single mistake. He must have drawn tens of thousands of horses. And in case you want to have a closer look on the artist, this is the guy. This is the Giga Chad. This is the Giga Chad of drawing horses.